8:38, Big 550 KTRS. Brenda Talent, CEO of the Show Me Institute, joins us. Good morning, Brenda Talent.
Good morning, McGraw.
What do you have for us this morning?
Well, I thought today we would try to step back and sort of look at the forest, and we're going to look at the forest of sales tax in St. Louis City.
Yes.
Because you do wonder, is anyone watching or taking a look at the big picture? St. Louis City's base tax rate now puts us in the, I don't know if it's enviable or questionable position of having the 13th highest sales tax out of all the major U.S. cities.
So the sales tax in the city of St. Louis is the 13th highest.
Higher, the base tax rate, higher than New York City, L.A., or San Francisco. So with this, the new proposition that just passed, Prop 1, we're going from 8.679%, or well, let's just call it 8.7, to 9.179. Let's call it 9.2. But that doesn't add up all of those dozens of micro sales tax districts, which just layer additional tax on. Those are the community improvement districts, the transportation development districts. Those can add up to an additional 2%, and then you get the 1% restaurant tax. So by the time
Wait a minute, what's the 1% restaurant tax?
Sit down. When you sit down to eat. Haven't you noticed that?
In the city of St. Louis, they charge you 1% to sit down and eat lunch?
Yeah, yes, they do.
Do they really?
They do. And, of course, you didn't know that. You know why? Because nobody tells you until you look at your bill. And so...
Wait a minute. On my bill, if I go eat in the city, there's a 1% restaurant tax on my bill?
It'll just show a sales tax.
Right. Oh, so it's part of the sales
tax.
Right,
just like it'll just show a sales tax if you're in a TDD or a CID.
It'll show the cumulative tax
The cumulative tax.
Right.
And so there are places in the Central West End, you cross the street, you're paying a different tax.
Right, because of all that,
Right, because of all that layering. And, you know, there is a point at which you've got to say, you know, maybe we're getting too high, because right now we're also talking about an additional sales tax for the zoo and for the police. The new mayor just talked about, well, we may need to have another proposition to increase police salaries.
Right.
So the real question here is, at what point is enough? Because it's not as if we're not taxing income in St. Louis City. We are.
Right.
It's not as if we have the lowest property tax. We don't.
Right.
How much can taxpayers bear? And is anyone looking at this and asking themselves, are we eroding our tax base for services that are not essential? So the most recent increase is for MetroLink. We've seen how great that's been for economic development.
Right.
And instead, we're also looking now for money for essential services, police.
Right. Which is interesting, because the voters passed the tax for the MetroLink as well as the tax on businesses for the stadium, but didn't vote to build the stadium. So they voted for the tax for the stadium, but not the actual stadium.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Just so we have that right. So you're looking in some places 12, 13% sales tax in the city of St. Louis.
That is correct.
On top of that, the 1% earnings tax. Which you haven't even mentioned as well.
I just mentioned it's an income tax.
Oh, that's income tax. But you think about, when it's all said and done, your paycheck has the federal, the state, FICA, Social Security, all the payroll taxes. And then whatever you get, then take 13% off of that because of the sales tax, and then that's your spending power.
That's exactly correct. And you ask yourself, is anyone paying attention to this? Is anyone asking themselves, does our tax policy in the city make sense when we're trying to attract more businesses and grow the population?
It does, though, when people talk about doing away with the Missouri income tax and having a sales tax. I mean, you're looking at, you might be 17, 18% sales tax if that ever happens.
Yeah, there is a point, because taxes do affect behavior. If you really would like preferably to tax consumption. So sales tax makes more sense, but you don't couple that with a tax on production of income. And what we're doing is eroding the tax base, because we're layering all of these kinds of taxes there, and not for essential services.
At some point, you think 13%, 1 meal, 2 meals, 3 meals, 1% of my earnings. You add that up over 10 years, right? Because when you decide to live in the city, or eat in the city or whatever else. You're not talking about one meal. You're talking about hundreds of meals. You're talking about 10 years of living in the city. Well, you take 1% of your earnings for 10 years, all of a sudden, that's real money.
That's real money. And let's also face it, what's the one thing you do now if you want to go shopping? If you want to buy something quick, what do you do?
You go online?
Go online.
Right.
And so there are easy ways to reduce your sales tax burden, which means it's only going to impact businesses worse in the city.
Well, which is why the whole structure of how we do it is broken, because we're taxing some people and not taxing other people.
That is correct. And when you look at some of our taxes, we're taxing those who can least afford to pay it.
Yes. And then today, the big story about Uber and Lyft in this thing, do you know that they're exempt from paying local taxes?
I missed that.
Yeah. So Uber and Lyft, are exempt from paying local taxes. So you and me and all the other businesses out there paying local taxes, but Uber and Lyft and ride-sharing companies don't have to pay local taxes.
I've got to ask one of my staff to take a look at that.
Take a look at that. Yes, you can give me a little note there at the bottom of your report. Where can we find out more about this, Brenda?
ShowMeInstitute.org. Please visit us there.
ShowMeInstitute.org. Brenda, you're always welcome here.
Thank you, McGraw.
844, Big 550.